Good morning, Rod. How are you today?
I'm wonderful, Paul. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, very good. And it's good morning from you and good evening from me.
Hey, how about that? We love technology, how we can communicate where it's evening for you and morning for me. I love it.
Yeah. I like the seamless side of it. We could be in the same studio right this second, couldn't we?
Yep, absolutely. Could be sitting
Yeah.
right next to each other.
Exactly. And you sound perfect in my ears. The sound is very good. So thank you for having a good system there to enable our listeners today. So Rod, whereabouts are you based?
I am in Southern California in San Diego, beautiful sunny San Diego right now. It
Right.
wasn't that way a few weeks ago. It was pretty rainy and dreary, kind of looked like Seattle or parts of England in the
New
wintertime.
Newcastle or somewhere like that for us up in the
Exactly.
north. Yeah.
Exactly.
Have you been to the UK?
I have not, unfortunately. I'm looking forward to making a trip here soon, actually.
Right. Excellent. Well, you'd have to make sure you come to London and meet me. I really get excited when I meet up with people I've actually interviewed from many miles away.
Absolutely. I'll definitely look you up when I get there.
Brilliant. And have you seen signs of climate change and the differences in weather? You mentioned the differences just now.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was just recently, I'm originally from Louisiana, and I was just back there, last week? And I don't think I've ever seen it that hot, ever,
Really?
and humid. It was miserable. I mean, there are heat warnings, heat indexes, telling you if you don't need to be outside, don't go. And if you're
Right.
inside, if at all possible, get under some kind of air conditioning. It is just that hot and miserable there. So we're seeing, just looking at the news this morning, on the East Coast, New York, Connecticut, some of our eastern seaboard states, massive flooding over the past few weeks to
Right.
go along with record heat that was going along right before that.
Yeah.
So we're seeing here in San Diego, where we very seldom get a lot of rain. It was one of the rainiest years we've ever seen. We had a lot of flooding.
Yeah.
We had a lot of snow packs. They had snow in areas like 20 feet tall.
Wow.
uh, yeah, I mean, we never see that. So
No.
to
So you've had
say
it.
that
You've had
climate
extreme.
change,
You've had
very,
extreme seasons in each case.
very much so, very much so. So we do see that climate change is real.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
It really helps motivate me even more because one of our missions for what we do at Brevian Energy is we're trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to
Right.
kind of slow down the effect uh, of the climate change and the potency of it that we see going on every day.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a motivator for you in your
Absolutely.
career. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really why we started doing this anyway. And everyone here that's associated with us, we really have that mission. So it's
Yeah.
more than just about making money for us.
No.
For us, it's being fiduciary, have a fiduciary responsibility to the company to make money. But our overall goal is to try to do what we can to try to reverse the effects of climate change.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on that more later, but for the benefit of our audience today, can you give us your background and talk us about your origin story? What led you into this sort of
Uh, I
passion?
I would say I came from a non-traditional route. First of all, I was in the United States Navy. After serving
Wow.
9 years in the Navy as an electronics technician, I got out of the Navy and I was into doing networking. So working with a lot of medical device companies and small to medium sized companies, helping them get a handle on their networking, kind of led me into working with data centers, helping them reduce their carbon footprint, helping them get a better handle on their energy situation. And I was introduced to microgrids and doing that. And as soon as I was introduced to it, I mean, like a light bulb for me just went off like, man, this is
Yeah.
the key. This is the answer for a lot of the problems that we're having right now. So from that, I hooked up with my partner who has 30 years of experience working in the nuclear power plant here at San Onofre in San Diego. He's done everything from an operator to leading the union to having a lot of government relations. So, partnering with him, really kind of getting more versed on microgrids and the different technologies that comprise them. And, we set out to start a company. Unfortunately, we started a company about 4 months before COVID, which didn't help much.
As you do, as you do. You couldn't have expected that to happen.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But it actually, it gave us an opportunity to kind of sit back and evaluate the partnerships that we were going to make, kind of help us vet out our business model, gave us the opportunity to talk to a lot of people that we couldn't talk to because nobody can go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that helped from that aspect. And really, as of about, last year, we really kind of started getting rolling out there. So we've been making an impact. We haven't slowed down. We've been really kind of focusing on small to medium-sized companies that fall within, say, 100 kilowatts to up to a megawatt, because we feel like they're kind of underserved. And also we've been focusing attention on LMI, or lower to moderate income communities, looking at some, community-based projects to help people who can't afford to deploy these technologies individually, but collectively as a community that can benefit from it.
Brilliant. We cannot go any further in this podcast without diving back. I like going back. Tell me about the Navy. What was you doing there?
Oh, I was an electronics technician in the Navy. I was on the USS Abraham Lincoln.
Wow.
Yeah, I pre-commissioned that ship. I was one of the first crew members assigned to the ship before it was even really built.
Right. And did you go out with it? How far did you get?
I did. I went as far as it did.
Oh, brilliant. Whereabouts was
yeah,
that?
made 2 deployments. I made it. The ship was built in Norfolk, Virginia, and it changed and established a home port in Alameda, California.
Right.
So on an aircraft carrier, we can't go through the Panama Canal, so you have to go all the way around South America.
Is it too big to go through the Panama?
It's too big. Too big to go through the Panama Canal. So we have to sail all the way around the tip of South America to come around to the other side of the United States. So that was a very interesting voyage. A lot of people don't get a chance to do that in the Navy.
Yeah.
So we got a chance to do that, go to places like Brazil and Chile. And so, yeah, we loved it. Then I did a deployment.
That must have been quite exciting. Was it quite active with the jets and things?
Oh, very active with the jets.
Yeah.
It's a floating airport.
Right.
Really, it's a floating city with an airport attached to
it. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was very interesting.
Did you ever get a chance to stand on top when there was the taking off and things? That must be amazing.
No, when they're taking off, not really, unless you really work
it's
up
restricted,
there. Yeah. When they're taking off, unless you have specific business to do up there, because it's a very dangerous environment, a lot of moving parts. So if you're not up there and have somebody coordinating your movements, then you shouldn't be up there at all.
Yeah.
But getting a chance to be up there, without all that stuff going on, all the time, got a chance to do that.
Brilliant. I'm so jealous. I love that. I love airplanes and the RAF and the jets and things. But yeah, what amazing. That standing up on that deck. So I stood on the deck. There's the ship in New York, isn't there? That's an aircraft carrier, but that's probably nowhere near as big as what you was on.
No, yeah, those are the older ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. And how long was you there?
Oh, I was on that ship for 5 years, and I was in the Navy for 9 years.
Right. And then you done your time and you transitioned out into a civilian.
Yep. And, I was here in San Diego, and I don't know if you've ever been to San Diego.
No,
but it's really hard.
It's on my bucket list.
It's really hard to leave this place.
Oh, really?
To be perfectly honest. Yeah. It's pretty hard to leave. Right. It's pretty hard to afford to stay here, but it's pretty hard to leave once you do get here.
What is the draw there?
I mean, perfect weather, great people, one lovely environment. You're, literally, no matter where you live in San Diego, you're no more than 30 minutes from the beach. You're no more than 45 minutes to the mountains.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So you can literally ski and go surfing on the same day.
Brilliant. Did you ski?
I don't do either.
But you,
But if you wanted to,
if
you
you
have the
wanted to,
option.
if the opportunity was there, you could do it. That's why you love it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it. And I'm going to touch on something else because you mentioned your business partner was in nuclear, the
Hmm.
nuclear industry. That's where I come
Hmm.
from.
Hmm.
So it'd be great to catch up with him one day and talk about nuclear power because obviously I worked in nuclear power for a long time myself.
Just be prepared for a long conversation.
Oh, same here. Where you'd be asleep before the end of the conversation, I'm
Oh
sure.
yeah, I definitely leave you two just going at it. I wouldn't be there with you.
Does it interest in you? You know, when you heard it the first time, did it interest you? The story about,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I've heard his story quite a bit, so I don't need to hear it again.
Please, was that a please? Did you put in there?
Exactly.
So tell us more about what you're doing now regarding the new business.
Again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, our core focus is companies that are small to medium size that have a peak demand of about anywhere from about 100 kilowatts to just under a megawatt, because we feel that they're underserved. There's been a lot of attention paid to residential customers, at the home level. Here in San Diego, we have several companies that are really focusing on that.
Yeah.
And at the large scale utility, 10, the multi-megawatt kind of deal, we have a lot of companies that are focused on that, providing utility scale power. But we don't have a lot of companies that are really focused on that small to medium-sized market,
Yeah.
which here in San Diego is really the predominant mixture of companies here. We
Right.
only have a couple of like Fortune 500 type companies here in San Diego, but the predominant, company size is small and medium size, less than 100 employees, and have that demand, like we talked about, either be that manufacturing companies. We have a lot of medical device companies here, a lot of wireless companies here, industries here. So those companies are, a lot of startups, smaller type companies, warehouse logistics. So we feel that that those are very great targets for us.
Yeah. And where'd you start? What's the starting point with these customers?
Really, we kind of take a look at the size and the industry, and we can kind of get a feel for what the demands are. And really for us, it's really at that point getting past the gatekeepers. And it's an education process, really, because
Yeah.
if I told you I can come to you and save you about a third on what you're spending right now from the, investor-owned utilities, plus make it so that, it's the likelihood of you losing power is significantly reduced. And oh, by the way, you're helping save the planet. If I
Yeah.
tell you you can do all of those, I mean, number one, saving money, that's the first thing you care about. You don't really care about, a lot of
Exactly.
people, they
That's
could
your
care about
priority.
2 and 3,
That's your
but
priority, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So number one, save your money. 2, give you a better quality of power, more resilient power, and helping you save the planet to be more responsible at the same time. So if we can bring all of those 3 in most cases, nobody's gonna say no to that. And what we like to do is work with a power purchase agreement. So the customer really, they don't have to spend any money up front, no capex, and they just agree to start off taking power from us when we start producing it,
Yeah. Yeah.
for about 20 to 25 years, which is the same kind of relationship they have right now with the investor-owned utilities. All they really care about is they turn on the switch and the light comes on. They don't really care how that happens.
And where is the grid, the subgrid actually connect? Is it on their building or is it adjacent to the building or is it they part of the network? How does that work?
That really depends on how they're set up. Right now, one of the major problems here in America is there is a delay, extreme delay in some cases on the connection queue to get connected to the grid, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
could take up to 4 years in a lot of cases. So they have
Whether
our
you're
federal,
renewable or not.
no, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
renewable, non-renewable, it doesn't
So if
really
I wanted
matter.
to build a building and then connect it in, I'm gonna have a delay. Yeah.
There's
Wow.
going to be a delay. Absolutely. Particularly on the commercial side. Now, some of these communities, like I talked about, these LMI or rural-based communities, they get like priority queue position before you. So
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of waiting 4 years, it could be like 9 months.
Right.
But we have the ability with what we do, we can build a system that doesn't require you to be even connected to the grid. And you can
Right.
generate your own power until that grid connectivity becomes available. And
Right.
then At that point, it's only, you can use it to generate additional revenue or use it as a backup. But we can have you islanded producing your own power without having to, wait that 4 or 5 years to
So you have
get
like a
going.
private wire straight into the building from the.
Absolutely. It's at that point, if it's not grid connected, semantically, it's called a mini grid instead of a microgrid.
Right.
So at the point that you do have that grid connectivity, it then becomes a microgrid.
Right.
But you're islanded. You can be producing your own power with a lot of different types of technology, depending on your location, your space size, and all of that. That we can totally have you generating your own electricity.
So you mentioned technologies. What are the ranges of technologies that you focus on?
Primarily, we use PV solar, as a generating asset during the daytime. We use LFP or lithium ferrous phosphate batteries because they're more efficient and they don't have the fire hazard.
Right.
We use hydrogen fuel cells.
Okay.
And they can provide base load power for mission critical assets. We can use wind turbines in the mix. We can use geothermal. We can use hydro. So there are a host of different, diesel generators. Although, our goal isn't to use diesel generators, but in some cases, particularly in mini grid situations, as a tertiary backup, we could have generators, be they natural gas or diesel or whatever, and try to use them as sparingly as possible, but at least have them there as a part of it.
Yeah.
In fact, most microgrids to this point are done with diesel generators.
Right.
So we're trying to change that and make that with renewable assets, but that could be a part of the mix as well.
But
we try to limit that as much as possible.
With diesel generators, there are solutions available. Biodiesel, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And take away
syngas and all kinds of different opportunities to do with that. So our
it's
goal
a good leg up,
to
isn't it? It's a good leg up and the starting point, and say an entry level into, you're looking at a building that needs power. You need to get in there quick. So maybe the diesel gen that's just your point one, and as long as you've got a roadmap to migrate that, then why not start that way?
Yeah, absolutely. We're not opposed to that. We want to get, our goal is to get to the end result. And there are a lot of different ways you can do that. And, a lot of different combinations. There's an old saying, and I know people get tired of hearing saying this, but if you've seen one microgrid, you've seen one microgrid, because they're all different.
Yeah. I was going to ask a question. One solution doesn't fit all, does it? You've got many solutions. Yeah.
I mean, there are different space requirements. There are different, mission criticalities based on, what a company does. Some company could maybe afford to be down for 4 hours and not a big deal. Some company can afford to be down 4 minutes because they'd lose massive revenues, or, somebody's life is on the line. So it really depends on
what do you think your challenges are?
Number one is really kind of establishing what the requirements are. That's, number one. And particularly a system that is brand new. It's easier to come in if you have historical information on, somebody who's been in operation for 20 years. They really know what they need. Yeah. But the challenge is building something new where you're kind of anticipating what's going to be the demand and you don't really know. So those are really the challenging aspects, but that's what makes this fun as well. It kind of helps you to, utilize all of your resources. You have to engage with a lot of different people to really understand what the requirements are in every aspect of the organization. So that's where that collaboration within an organization is really essential.
For me, you're going to go in there with all different solutions. So, you're going to be scratching your head for a while before you actually decide how you're going to do that. And data is key in the beginning, as you say. If you've got a new building, new requirements, you've got no data to work on. Is data easy to get hold of in San Diego?
Depends. Again, if it's an existing situation, that data is pretty easy to get a hold of because they're going to be have been working with the local utility, and there's only one here in San Diego.
Right.
So we have an application that we use that kind of interfaces with several investor-owned utilities and allow us to pull their interval information, or what's called green button data. So every 15 minutes, there is a snapshot of your energy usage taken.
Right.
So, and there's two components of your bill, right? There is your energy that you consume at a rate that you consume it, you pay for that. But what most people don't even realize is that you actually get charged for the amount of power that's available for you to use.
Yeah.
That's called a
Availability.
demand charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that's measured in those 15-minute periods. Every 15 minutes, there's a snapshot taken. So your highest usage in a 15 minutes, or your highest demand or power made available to you in a 15-minute period over a month's time is how you get charged for that.
Yeah.
And that's usually about a third of your bill is that demand charge, let alone your consumption. And here in San Diego, we have what's called time of use. So you don't get like a flat rate of X, just say 10 cents. You don't get that. You get one time, what's called off peak. That's in the morning time from like 7 a.m. to 3:59 p.m. Then you get what's called peak at 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., where you are charged, at least twice, at least double of what you're charged during the peak time. And then in the evening time, you have like the super off peak, where they encourage you to charge your vehicles and that kind of stuff because that's the lowest rate at that time.
Yeah. Tell me, so obviously, you have different states, and the state you're talking about is San Diego, and that is where
California.
the California state. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very good with my state, so I do apologize. So tell me, where does that energy come from? Is it within California? Is that state on its own ring as such? Or
Well, we're
does the
here in
energy come across?
in San Diego. There are really like three major utility companies. Here
Right.
in San Diego, we have San Diego Gas and Electric.
Got
So
you.
they are the providers of our energy here in San Diego County.
Right.
And I might add that San Diego Gas and Electric has the highest rates in all of America, including our two.
And why is that?
Because they can,
Uh,
because
it's a
they've been
monopoly,
approved to
yeah?
do so.
Yeah, yeah.
It is definitely a monopoly
Yeah.
in this area,
And
which is why
do they
deploying
push electricity
microgrids.
do they push electricity to other parts, other states? Or
No,
you're on your own?
they're just San Diego County.
Right. Right.
So San Diego County only they're operating. They have certain variations of parts of Orange County, a little bit of parts of Riverside County are in there, but primarily they're just San Diego County.
I must have I've done some research on this many years ago, and I knew it wasn't like the UK where we've got a whole complete open grid where we can trade our energy, we can buy from all different. We've got competitors, I think there's about 19 suppliers, but
That's
obviously
like Texas. Texas
right.
is like that.
Yeah, so some of the American states have copied the UK, and yeah, so it all depends on where you are. So, are you only doing this work currently in San Diego?
Well, our projects right now have been in San Diego, but we're looking at projects all over the country. In fact,
right.
So yeah, we have the ability to work anywhere. But again, here in San Diego, we have the highest utility rates in the country. So we have a lot of potential customers right here in our own backyard.
Every time you're talking, I'm thinking of these words. I was going to say, you might as well just work in your backyard to start with, before you then start, because if you can't get it right in your backyard, you're never going to get it right, are you?
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, we want to get our business model perfected, get this thing down pat before we take it to the world.
Yeah, I was going to just touch on that. Can this be driven across the globe? Is there any
Absolutely, and some of the places that we're really looking at are these emerging markets as well, like in Africa, Central America, where they haven't made the initial investments in all of these big grids to begin with. So there something like microgrids can help them easily get electrification in a lot of the rural areas and give them a lot of stability. Most of these places you go, they're just. I mean, it's just common practice that it's 4 o'clock. The grid's we're gonna lose power here for about an hour. I mean, it's like commonplace. Nobody scratches their heads.
Especially
like
in
no big deal.
Africa, there's a lot of downtime, isn't there?
Absolutely. So we do see opportunities in those markets. There are concerted efforts right now collaborations between our government and some of the African nations as well, looking to bring over these technologies. So some of these emerging markets are certainly targets for us, again, because we feel we can do good. You know, I was watching a documentary maybe a year ago or so, and I was watching something that really struck me, said that the presence of electricity doesn't necessarily guarantee success, but the absence of electricity absolutely guarantees failure and poverty. So in these areas, you know, these tribal areas, these villages, they have no electricity, you're going to find poverty.
Yeah, that's worth thinking about. Um, where so I was going to ask as well, do you need legislation? Is there some sort of license that you have to do this?
I mean, well, you know, electrical licenses, of course, you know, there are some regulations around this, but I mean, I think the most impactful thing that's happened to this whole industry here, particularly in America, was over the past couple of years with two things. There was an infrastructure bill that was recently passed by the Congress and pushed through by President Biden, and recently the Inflation Reduction Act, which increased these credits, made tax credits transferable. That in and of itself has poured fuel on the fire that is the renewable energy market. So between, like I say, the infrastructure bill really puts a lot of monies into communities and municipalities to help them upgrade their systems, and the Inflation Reduction Act, you know, help, you know, individual companies and individual citizens, you know, claim more on their in their tax credits, and, you know, make these tax credits transferable, particularly for like nonprofits who don't have the tax liability anyway.
Right.
To be able to work with a project to sell those tax credits to a company looking to claim those, and for direct cash, can really help fund these projects. So a lot of these projects now, up to 60 to 70% of them are paid for with public and private money.
Right. So you get funding for it, yeah?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we've talked about your challenges. What's your plans for the future regarding what you're doing, apart from doing more and more of what you're doing?
Again, working with, you know, targeting the companies, like we said, the small and medium-sized companies, helping them save money, you know, which all of those can help them stay afloat. You know, energy challenges here in San Diego, the cost of energy, we saw a few years ago when we first started seeing, you know, massive spikes in electrical costs during the summertime, literally drove companies out of business because they couldn't afford to pay their power.
No.
So if we can make that predictable, if we can lower those costs for them, if we can provide them power where they don't have to send their employees home, you know, 3-4 times a year because they can't operate because they don't have power. If we can do that for them, give them more stability, in the long run, we think it helps make them to be more viable.
So is the grid majority fossil fuel, the gas? No, there's
Oh,
no coal.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know,
Hence,
coal-fired plants.
hence that why the price has gone up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been affected by the Russian and Ukraine prices impact
Absolutely.
on it.
Absolutely. It impacted the whole world.
Yeah.
And just not even just from a price standpoint, we see it as a security issue as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we really push for decentralization on the grid by having microgrids deployed in mass.
Yeah.
So no one incident can take out a whole area.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So it's come to that time. I don't know if you've listened to any of my podcasts, but it's where I put you on the spot. You've already been on the spot. So thank you for sharing your story.
No
But is
problem.
there something you can give back to our industry today? You know, we have quite a few experts listening to our call today. Is there anything that you can give them as a takeaway for their role within this industry?
This is something that everyone can be a part of, right? I mean, we all live on the same planet. I
Yeah,
don't care if you're black, white, Republican, Democrat, man, woman, we all breathe the same air. We all
exactly.
live under the same sun, you know. So we're all going to be affected the same ways. I don't care if you're rich, poor, whatever. So number one, we should all be thinking of ways we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions, right? We need to reverse the effects of climate change.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from an energy standpoint, but it could be you just focus more on recycling, focus more on using products that are, more eco-friendly. So I think we have to have that as a priority for all of us, not just some of us. Everybody needs to take part in this, because not just some of us are going to benefit from the earth not getting too hot.
Yeah. And it's not everyone that works in the industry, it's everyone in the world.
Yes, again,
doesn't matter
everyone.
whether you're a policeman, you're working in a hospital, you're a school teacher,
Doesn't matter.
everyone can make that change.
We all
Make a
breathe the same
difference.
air. It doesn't, it's
Exactly.
not like rich people breathe this air and poor people breathe this air. We all breathe the same air.
I like the fact you said Republicans and what was the other one? Republicans
Democrats.
and Democrats. That's very American.
Yeah, the House of Lords of Commons either. Yeah, I mean, Lords of Commons, it doesn't matter.
I would have said whether you're conservative or Labour. That's our sort of colours. And it's the same as
There
you.
you go.
You're red and blue as well, aren't you?
Absolutely. I mean, what's funny is they're red and blue, and like the two most notorious gangs in the country, Crips and Bloods, are red and blue. So they remind me of exactly the same.
Yeah.
They're so, they're so tribal. If you wear that color, I'll have nothing to do with you. But again, doesn't matter. We still
the same
breathe
with
the same
football.
air.
We have the same with football. So is San Diego a Biden area?
It has become so. It used to be more conservative,
Right.
but I would say over the past 10, 15 years, it's starting to lean a little bit more liberal.
Right. Oh, interesting. So would you guys pleased that Biden got in? I'm not putting you on the spot. I don't normally like talking about politics, but I find it very interesting.
As someone who is in the renewable energy space, I am ecstatic that President Biden has come in with his focus on remaking our grid. His whole administration, that has been a key focus, again, between the infrastructure bill that was passed and the Inflation Reduction Act, which put a lot of emphasis on this. I mean, I don't care if I was the biggest Republican in the world, but I'm in this industry, and the things that the legislation that's been passed and the effort that's been made from his administration has really helped to propel this industry forward.
Yeah.
So I'm ecstatic from that standpoint.
I like that word. So, Rod, I'd really like to thank you for your time today. It's been brilliant. I love your voice. You sound like, no, I shouldn't really say this, but you do sound like Will Smith. Is he from your area?
No, he's actually he's from Philadelphia. I'm from Louisiana. But ironically enough, when I was a kid, before my beard was white, people used to say I used to look like him. But,
yeah, you do. You do.
I look like him, maybe a homeless Will Smith, probably. I look like a
No, you don't. You don't. Well, Rod, look, thank you very much. It's been really interesting listening to your story. I wish you a lot of sort of luck and sort of focus on that. You got I can feel the passion all the way across the pond. So I wish you really well with that.
Thank you, Paul. Like, again, we have a mission here to, we like to say, to save the planet 1 watt at a time.
Yes. And, we'd like you to come back, give it 6 months, come on with your partner so we can talk some nuclear stuff as well. So
yeah, I think I'll introduce you to, and I'll have something else to do at that point.
Yeah. Well, Rod, please, you and your family stay safe in these times. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate being on. I really enjoyed the conversation today.